The September jobs report was released Friday, and it fell short of what many experts predicted. The U.S. economy created 194,000 jobs last month, far below the predicted jobs gain of 475,000. The unemployment rate did drop to 4.8%, the first time that the rate has dropped below 5% since March of 2020. But part of that was due to less Americans looking for jobs. President Biden blamed the disappointing numbers on the pandemic, but still expressed some optimism. CBS News chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes has more.
September may be back to school month, but it's not back to work. According to the latest figures, the economy added 300,000 fewer jobs than expected, the most meager gain since last December.
I thought that this was a really disappointing report. It was anemic. And
CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger.
Overall, the big issue here is that we are not done with this virus. It is infecting people, and it is also infecting the economy.
The problem isn't a lack of jobs, it's a lack of candidates. The latest figures show there are 1.5 jobs available for every unemployed American, the largest gap ever recorded.
Why do you think there are so many people who are still reluctant to re-enter the workforce?
People are still fearful of COVID and what it will be like in workplaces and ensuring their own safety. There are still challenges as it relates to child care, elder care.
The fast food chain Raising Cane's is deploying half its corporate staff to cook and sell chicken fingers instead.
We could clearly use about 10,000 more crew members.
A.J. Kumaran is co-CEO.
We have about 150 restaurants that cannot fully function, meaning they have hours reduced or a sales channel reduced, all of it, because we're not fully staffed.
The White House looked for good news in today's report. The unemployment rate among Black Americans fell by nearly a full percentage point. But that's partly because so many Black women have left the workforce altogether.
I'd like to see it faster.
President Biden noted that the jobs numbers released today were gathered in mid-September, when the number of new daily COVID cases was 60% higher than it is now.
Jobs up, wages up, unemployment down. That's progress.
And Nancy Cordes joins me now from the White House. Nancy, President Biden said that the September jobs report shows that the country is making, quote, great progress, even though it's the second month in a row that job numbers fell short of estimates. How is the administration responding to this and the fact that the labor participation rate actually went down slightly?
Right. So they've sort of looked at this report for the numbers that they do like, even though overall the report was something of a disappointment to economists. They're arguing that because the overall unemployment rate went down this month from 5.2% to 4.8%, that is a win, even though we know that part of the reason that the unemployment rate did go down is because there are people who are leaving the workforce altogether. They're no longer looking for work. What the White House is arguing here is that you can't really take what the jobs numbers look like in September as proof positive of how the economy is doing overall, because it was a really rocky month, and so was August, because of the huge number of cases of COVID that we saw due to the Delta variant. They say those case numbers are cascading downward so quickly now that they're predicting, if you look at a snapshot of the economy for October or even November, things are going to look very different. So we'll see if they're right about that.
And how does their feeling about the overall economic health of the nation, not just this underperforming report, but also the uncertainty around a long-term deal on the debt ceiling? How is all of that affecting sort of the White House's move and economic prospects?
Well, you've already got Republicans who were out there as soon as this jobs report came out saying, look, the president promised as part of his big COVID rescue plan that we were going to see 7 million new jobs this year. Now it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Why should we allow him to spend another $2 trillion on his big social spending bill? So that is messaging that is going to continue. That is not convenient for the White House, not convenient for Democrats. Of course, you got the White House out there saying that if these bills are passed, it's going to enable people to get back into the workforce in larger numbers. We know that one of the reasons that women in particular haven't gone back to the workforce yet amidst this pandemic is because childcare has become more scarce. It's become more expensive, and that makes it harder for women to go back to work. Well, this big $2 trillion reconciliation bill that Democrats are working on would lower the cost of childcare, and it would also improve access to pre-K for 3- and 4-year-olds, something that they argue will be good for the economy in the long run.
Nancy, I also want to ask you about the other big story out of the White House. President Biden is not going to stop the release of documents from the Trump administration, which the House January 6 Select Committee has requested. Tell us why the Biden administration made this decision, and was it a difficult one for them?
It doesn't appear that it was, because they've been sort of signaling for a couple of weeks now that this is probably what they were going to do. White House counsel saying that essentially the need for the public to know and understand exactly what happened on January 6th outweighs any claims of executive privilege that the former president might make in trying to stop this material from being released. And we're talking here about phone logs, visitor logs from January 6th, that we have a clearer picture of exactly what former President Trump was doing and who he was talking to as the insurrection at the Capitol unfolded. So you can imagine there are a number of people in the president's orbit, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, who might not want those call logs and other pieces of material to be made public. But essentially what the Biden White House has now done is to say, we're not going to stand in the way of any of that material being released. We don't think that it is that exerting executive privilege over these materials is a justification for keeping that information from the public about a day that, they say we all need to understand in order to prevent it from happening again.
And has former President Trump responded to that decision? And might he still find a way to block the release of those documents?
He has absolutely responded. He slammed the Biden administration, said that it's incredibly unfair. I'm sure that he and his allies will look for any legal mechanism to try to block these materials from getting in the hands of the January 6th investigators. And we already know that he has encouraged some of the individuals in his inner circle who have been subpoenaed by the committee not to cooperate. So it's unlikely that he would suddenly stop that crusade now. Whether any of those legal arguments are going to hold water in court remains to be seen.
All right, Nancy, thank you.
You're welcome.